get yourself a standing desk. Hey, this is Dr. Matt. Remember to share and subscribe. Hi, I'm Dr. Matt Bradbury. What I want to talk about today, the rotator cuff, and some of the things that come to mind is we got to talk about some of the anatomy, and of course we got to talk about your posture, because if you are shifted and stuck forward, it's going to be a factor in your health and healing. So when it comes to the shoulder, you'll see here, we have our muscles, we have our front view, and we have some of the more commonly torn rotator cuff muscles, the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, and you'll see there's 4 of those muscles that help support and keep that shoulder pulled together. So you have your arm bone, and then your shoulder blade, and you have everything holding it tight in its socket. When one of these gets irritated, whether it's micro trauma or one bigger trauma over time, overuse injuries, or you're just not keeping up as well as you'd like, and you're starting to break down, and maybe have some tearing or some challenges, remember, these are some of the simple things that you can do to help yourself. So you'll see here, you have your muscles, your teres minor, your infraspinatus, your supraspinatus, the muscles that do this, bring you up, and then you have the one on the front, your subscapularis, which helps turn you in like this. So keep that in mind. Today we're going to be talking about how to support these muscles. And one of the really neat things is that if you focus on what you can do and you can still make progress, it'll often help just with between the ears in terms of that whole, the healing mindset and constantly moving forward. So what I like to think about is, even if you have a challenge on the right, I would still focus on training the left as well, because oftentimes if you still train the left side, you will maintain some strength gains on the, let's say, injured side. So keep that in mind. I think that's really cool. And as well, some things that I want to share with you today are just things that you can do to support yourself and help with the overall restoring function and mobility to your shoulder. So keep in mind that first 3 to 7 days, I want you to think for a moment, when you pick a scab, if you were to pick a scab, essentially, platelets come down, clotting, essentially you clot up, and you have a scab, and then eventually a scar forms. So same idea, if you create that damage within your tendon or muscle, give yourself the first 3 to 4 to 7 days to slow down a bit with that side. As the inflammation happens, I think groceries in, garbage out, and essentially everything's being laid down, so you're creating that network of tissue so you can help with the healing. Now, what are some things you can do to help support yourself with how you move? I like to think start with less is more. Start by focusing on the simple things you can do. Remember your posture. If you're like this at the desk, remember standing up, moving around. If you're at the desk sitting, make sure you're standing up every 20 to 30 minutes. Get yourself a standing desk right away. Standing, moving more, and as well, if you haven't already started, start with simple things like walking a little more and focusing on the positives, because that'll help with the healing too, help shift your mindset to stay positive, and just help overall so you feel that much better. So consider the basics. Now what can you do to help support your shoulder? I'm going to start by showing you one thing that's really worked well, that I've always enjoyed and thought this is something I've shared with people time and time again. And when you have your natural angle at which your arms sit like this, and your natural carrying angle when you turn your arm out, your palm forward towards the camera, you'll see, what I'm going to have you do is actually just lightly push forward against the wall. So I'm going to turn around just so you can see, and what I'll do is I'll pause and I'll count to 5. So when I'm doing this, I'll pause and I count to 5. That's 1 rep. And when you're doing it, you're thinking about underneath your armpit, you got your shoulder blade, and you got the bulk of the tissue or the muscles in there. You're thinking about not letting your shoulder hike, just gently pushing forward. 5 seconds, think about 5 seconds for 5 reps. And I do both sides. If it's the right side that's challenged, still do the left side as well. Now, as you progress through that, I would do that a couple times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Get you used to just activating your shoulder again. Quite simply, the second thing I want to share with you is just reestablishing how you move. And what you're going to do is focus on hand in the pocket, and then hand in the back pocket. So I do just like this. Just when you get a little bit of discomfort, pause right there, and then come back down. And if it's on the side that's not challenged, you may be able to reach right up. Focus on putting your shoulder through a full range of motion again. And you may only use it from here to here most of the day if you're working at a desk. So all of a sudden you start pushing it a little bit, you may notice it. And what I'd focus on is 8 to 12, 8 to 10 reps. Every time you come up is 1 rep. And again, I would focus on that 2 to 3 times a day, going through a range of motion, starting to reestablish how that brain knows what's going on with that shoulder and reestablishing that movement pattern. Now, What I also like to share with you is just isometric exercises. And this one I've found really useful in my own shoulder journey in terms of keeping them as healthy as possible. I find this great as a warm-up, and especially if you've been, had a little setback or speed bump along the way, this is something that you can use yourself to help re-coordinate how that shoulder moves. Now what you're thinking about is letting the shoulder sit back and in the socket. You don't want yourself to ride up like this. You want to sit back, nice and square. And then what you're gonna do is anchor a band around something sturdy, like a railing or a post at the gym. And imagine this is my anchor. And what I'm gonna think about now is I'm gonna think about the number 8. So I will draw the number 8 with my hand, and this is the working side, the straight arm. And then I will also draw the infinity sign. So focusing on different ranges of motion. And again, you're not moving that arm very much, but you're focused on the humerus, the arm bone, back in the socket, and just breathing. And when you do it, you can do 10 to 15 times infinity, 10 to 15 times with the 8. Again, a couple of sets a day, breakfast, lunch, and you're really trying to increase your volume of building your capacity up and building that awareness up again. Now, as you progress through the first few weeks of just getting yourself to move again better with the little bit of push against the wall, right? And then as well, the practicing the movement pattern, and then as well, the isometric one, the 8s and the infinities, what I get to eventually is start loading your shoulder against some weight. And how I use it, what I mean by weight is just using a band like this. And I would load both sides. You may get to the point, this may be, let's say, 2 to 6 weeks into it, depending on your progression and where you're at. And with this, I would load it anywhere from 8 to 12 times. And focusing on controlling on the way down and breathing. So the band, great way to load at that, let's say 2 to 5 to 6 week mark, depending on where you're at with the progression of your shoulder. What I want to share with you as well is doing some soft tissue. So some of the soft tissue that's worked really well that I've found is actually just getting in to the front, because a lot of times if your small rotator cuff muscles, you remember, if your small rotator cuff muscles aren't moving as well as they could be, and let's say you have a tear, some irritation, what I would do is focus on loosening up the prime movers. And what I mean is the top shoulder muscles, the pec, the lat. And today we're going to focus on actually the pec and the front of the shoulder. Because if those small muscles aren't fine-tuned and they're getting tired too quickly, a lot of times the big muscles take over. And so they make it tight and tender. What you can do is just grab a ball like this, and I'll show you up on the wall. You're going to put it through here. You can roll it on the front of your shoulder. You can roll it on your pec muscle right through here, and you just bring your arm up like that, lean into the wall, and breathe. So I'll show you what I mean over here. So you'll see here, you're actually just hanging on the wall, and I'll just breathe. You may find yourself at a trigger point, and just like that, hang out. You can bring your arm up as high as you can, drop it down, and with that, you can again make 5 to 7 passes, breathing. When it gets a little bit easier, you can move on to the next area. You may start here, making some passes, and then you may move more out here, and just simply opening your arm up from here to here, just like this, to here. Thumbs in and thumbs out. Really neat way to help loosen yourself up. Today our focus was on the chest and the front delt, but you can use that in many areas to help yourself move that much better. So consider the ball as well. Now as you wrap up, remember that it's really important to be consistent. As with anything like this or natural health, it requires some consistency on your part. And the biggest part is picking a time, whether it's when you brush your teeth, something that you know you're going to do every single day. So pair it with brushing your teeth up in the morning, again in the evening. Create yourself a 5-minute routine. Start with less is more, and consider that, those simple things like standing up more at the desk, going for a walk, working the good side or the side that's less challenged right now are all things that can still help you feel like you're making progression without feeling like you're not making the progress that you want to and being discouraged. So all things that can help you move in the right direction. Also, talked about standing more and your posture. As a family corrective chiropractor, I mean, if you're sitting like this all day and then you try to move and you're actually stuck forward, you're not going to get the same range of motion. So a lot of time your posture is going to be involved. If your shifting is stuck and the nerves are irritated, it's going to be a factor in your health and healing. So consider the health of your spine and nervous system too. Consider what you got to do at home to help yourself work better, and all the simple things that add up. That's what I got for you today. As you know, before in the past, I have a big mission in terms of helping people understand their health more and how they can learn more about their health and look after themselves that much better when it comes to, you have to have more function for more health and the health of your spine and nervous system, and I cannot do it alone, so I need your help. So if you found this video useful, please take a moment to click share it to your feed. If you know someone directly with a shoulder challenge, grab the URL and actually click and grab it, copy and paste it to them so they can get the same benefit you just had as well. Anyways, I appreciate you very much. Thanks so much for considering sharing, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.